In the headlines of the CBC NewsNight, hundreds of Liberians search for their roots in Barbados. Plans in place for next year's common entrance examinations. Multinational companies operating in Barbados to pay higher taxes from this month. And in sports, two Windies World Cup selectees fail with the bat in today's IPL.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Good evening with the CBC NewsNight. I'm Wendy Burke. 250 Liberians will spend the rest of the week on a quest to discover their ancestral roots and their Barbadian heritage. The group forms part of the Sankofa pilgrimage conceived by Prime Minister Mia Motley some 2 years ago. Rachel Agard joined them in St. Joseph today and filed this report.
Today we join our Liberian cousins here in Barbados as part of a pilgrimage voyage dreamt and thought of by our very own Prime Minister Mia Motley some 2 years ago. Ambassador Lorenzo Witherspoon put it into place, and we join them here at Hillcrest St. Joseph. The beautiful Bathsheba backdrop provided the cool ocean breezes that created the perfect setting for this cultural interaction. The conversations on the cultural exchange began 2.5 years ago by then Minister of Culture, John King. Now a senator, he tells CBC News he was surprised to learn there were no ties between Barbados and Liberia, and so the seed was planted.
This is the beginning of us looking to see if we did this with Liberia, what other African countries we can find Barbadians, and where else in the world do we find Barbadians who need to link with Barbados at this particular point in time.
Head of the pilgrimage group, Ambassador Lorenzo Witherspoon, described the trip as a labor of love. He says when Prime Minister Mia Motley approached him about the trip, he could not say no. He adds, during conversations with the Prime Minister, they both realized none of the 346 Barbadians returned home following the 1865 voyage to the village of Cruiserville.
It places so much like home, like Cruiserville, where we lived and grew up, and where our ancestors lived in their pursuit of building Liberia. And so everybody feels at home, just like I did the first time I came here. And that's the beauty of it. And so many people have talked to me about investment in property. They want to come here. They want to come here after they retire. This is home, and which is good because that's what the Prime Minister wants to see happen. She wants to bring her people back home to help to, A, grow the population, diversify the economy, and give them a stake in the construction or the reconstruction of Barbados. Because I told her when we met, I thought Barbados could become the next Malaysia, and it can.
Also making the voyage is Liberia's first female president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. She says she previously visited Barbados in the 1970s, but sees this trip as a great opportunity.
I particularly want to be here for the opportunity to meet the Prime Minister. And I think that for me is the biggest event for me, as I will be seeing her, and I'll have a chance to discuss with her on global issues.
Reverend Evangelist Judy Stryker says she brought a number of family members along with her and promised to visit with a bigger contingent.
It is moving today to be here on my 70th birthday, 70. So it's got to be God that led you. It is a historic time for us as Liberian Barbadians, and a historical time for me to be accompanied by a 7-year-old grandchild, my sister and my brother, to spend this 70. I know my grandparents, wherever they are buried in Liberia, are extremely excited and proud.
The journey continues tomorrow with a trip to the National Archives, dinner at Ilaro Court with Prime Minister Motley on Friday, and a Bajan extravaganza in Oistins on Saturday. Rachel Agard, CBC News.
There will be a common entrance examination next year. That's the word from Education Minister Kay McConney. She made the revelation about the 2025 11+ after today's test.
There will likely be a common entrance in 2025. What we have done is we are currently reviewing the proposals that were made and looking at what are some of the best options in light of some of the consultations that we have done. And we want to come back with a comprehensive package of the new things that we would propose in the situation. As you know, we had a very ambitious set of proposals. We then held consultations with our stakeholders as well as with the general public. We are now consolidating much of that feedback that came out of those consultations to make sure that when we come back to you, that we're able to say, well, here's what was proposed, here's what we heard, here's the kind of analysis that went in to us now, suggesting that this be the way that we go.
Meanwhile, once all goes according to plan, the 3,000+ candidates will know what secondary schools they've been allocated to in early July when the results are released. Rianne Phillips has more in this report.
Candidates, their parents and guardians assemble from just after 7 outside the various examination centres. At the Parkinson Memorial School in the Pine, the students receive last-minute advice and comforting messages before the 9 a.m. start.
I tell you, there's no way if you see something that high, skip that, go and do, and then come back and do it. You ain't going to teach you there to ask how you could do this here or whatever the case be. So I give you luck. Wherever school you pass for, they're free.
But it was all over at 1 p.m. with several relieved faces emerging from the classrooms.
The English and composition was easy, but the math was hard. And mathematics, question 53 lit me up bad, but I got through it. I pushed through. I got through Section C better than how I normally do. And I just glad it over because I could finally spend more time with my friends.
It was challenging at first, but at the end it was actually pretty easy. So I'm actually relieved that it's over now. The composition and grammar were easy, but the mathematics was a little harder.
To me, the math was more challenging because I like grammar better than mathematics. I feel good now the test is over. I feel free because I don't have to do any more lessons or anything until I get in secondary school.
Math is my strong suit, but personally, I think grammar was more challenging.
Parents, including St. George North MP Tony Moore and Trinidadian soca artist Farmanapi, are also glad to have the test behind them.
I have not asked my daughter how the exam was. I'm not interested in hearing because there's no answer she can give me right now that will make a difference. And I will urge the same for all parents. Just let them enjoy the rest of this day and look forward to the rest of their lives.
Today is the day that my son writes 11+. Remember Trinidad, Barbados have been representing farmer for the past 17, 18 years, so it's an honor to be here with all the kids.
And Education Minister Kay McConney is pleased with how the exam was executed.
Generally, I can say that it was a successful day. All 21 schools were able to deliver in terms of the facilities and comfort and what the students would need today to ensure that they were able to successfully complete the examination. The papers were delivered on time. The invigilators are saying that they had enough time to settle the children, so there was not a rush in the morning. We had, for the most part, most students got to the exams on time. There were a couple of late arrivals, and accommodation was made so that everyone was still able to take the examination today. I am being told that we anticipate results to be back out by July, early July. So mid-early July, we anticipate that the results will be out.
And with the exam behind them, several of the students are looking forward to post-common entrance celebrations. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
And those post-common entrance celebrations were held at Combermere and St. George Secondary School following the culmination of today's 11+. After leaving the exam centre, candidates at the St. George School received packages with goodies compliment St. George North MP Tony Moore, while those at Combermere were treated to snow cones from the team members of the Barbados Workers' Union. Coming up, multinational companies operating in Barbados to pay higher taxes from this month. Some large multinational companies operating in Barbados will be paying higher taxes from this month. That's because government has introduced the corporation top-up tax bill, which will see those entities paying 15% in corporation taxes. The move is in keeping with the introduction of a global minimum tax rate for the companies earning more than 750 million euros annually. The bill was introduced in the House of Assembly this morning by Minister in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, Ryan Strawn. He explains businesses who do not meet the threshold will continue to pay 9%, while registered small businesses will pay 5.5%.
First, to make sure then that we are consistent with the application of the global minimum tax rules, the GLOBE rules as they're called, Madam Deputy Speaker. This bill this morning is seeking to ensure that Barbados signals to all and sundry that the top-up tax between the 9 and the 15%, Madam Deputy Speaker, for those companies, and they declare for those companies above that threshold of 750 million euros or 850 million US dollars, depending on where the exchange rate is at any given point in time. That is the threshold, Madam Deputy Speaker, for those companies that will be impacted.
Companies operating in Barbados whose original jurisdiction has not yet implemented the 15% minimum tax will be allowed to remain on the previous sliding scale for this year. Mr. Strawn says the move could potentially attract new international business.
It then means that there are opportunities now for us, Madam Deputy Speaker, that were not there before, for us now to be able to do some more bilateral treaties with countries all over the world who may have viewed Barbados as being a low tax jurisdiction before, and therefore now potentially open up more avenues of business for companies operating in Barbados.
In his contribution to the debate, opposition leader Ralph Thorne called on Mr. Strawn to clarify whether the bill would result in an increase or reduction in tax revenue.
Simple, tell the public. Now, a part of his speech that I really was attracted to was when the honorable member said that some corporations that operate here may be taxed in their country of domicile. And that is interesting. You see, you don't criticize everything, and I want to commend him because it is a means, perhaps, of gathering unto this country some foreign exchange.
There's a suggestion formal training be provided for judges and magistrates in cybercrime-related areas to enable them to rule on those cases. It has come from Neil Harper in his oral submission yesterday before the Joint Select Committee of the House regarding the Cybercrime Bill 2024.
My submission very clearly says that there should be training. So should be some type of or training that make sure that your magistrates and your judges understand the law. So there's nothing to concede, because I think we're on the same page.
Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Transport and Works, Dr. Rommel Springer, also has some queries about certain aspects of the bill.
I can't see a scenario where there's not a piece of legislation that looks specifically at situations where persons, because of the clearance that they have in their jobs, in the areas that they work, may not necessarily be listed as critical. I mean, I don't know if the CIA Licensing Authority, for example, is listed or seen as part of the critical infrastructure. It may very well be, but there's a lot of important data that is stored, or persons who work within that department has access to.
One of Barbados' renowned musicians, Ricky Amy, has died. He died at home on Monday night. Amy, the father of two, made a significant contribution to the entertainment landscape. He played with the bands such as The Outfit, Coalition, Colorblind, and Boogie Nights. Some of his friends in the entertainment fraternity have reflected on his life and contribution to the industry. Barbadian pianist, composer, and academic Dr. Stefan Walcott says he was a stalwart in the Spooge era, playing bass.
I mean, he was a youngster at the time, but he totally drew still. And he always impressed upon the younger musicians the value in looking at that music as a way of being creative, a way of stating things about Barbados. So, in addition to that, played on the circuit for years. I always was a really proud person. In other words, he encouraged you to stand up for your rights as a musician and to be proud of yourself that you are a creative person.
Musician and producer Randy Eastman has described Amy as a genius.
Always, encourage us as young musicians, encourage us to practice and do great things and hope to get in the NBA, share his life stories and how he was successful. And he's always been very supportive, and it's truly a major loss to the music industry. His contribution is wide and vast in terms of what he's made, in terms of his contribution to the music industry during his time here.
Barbados' Indian community is going beyond the mandate issued by the Three Safia Sai International Organization. Last year, they were mandated to plant 10 trees per year as part of a 1 million tree initiative over a 2-year period. But National Coordinator for Barbados, Mukesh Chugani, says they have gone beyond that and started planting 10 trees per month.
This morning, our activities was planting of trees, and therefore thereafter to show a connection of humanity with planet Earth and Mother Earth, why we do need to plant trees, because trees are very important for the nature, for Earth to survive, because they are the lungs of this world. Without trees, we will be in a desperate situation in the next 30-40 years very easily.
In recognition of love for all mothers, the group came together with children of the Barbados Prison Fellowship last weekend and planted another 10 trees at Peg Farm and Nature Reserve in St. Joseph. They've already planted a series of trees at that location and another 10 at the Barbados Prison Fellowship. Meanwhile, Lance Bourne, son of the late Paul the Surfer Bourne, welcomes the initiative and says it is very rewarding to see the trees blossom over the last year or two.
It's really lovely to have them come and plant the trees. It aligns with our goals and values, so it's always lovely to have people that share the same energy as us up here on the property, doing something good for the community, benefiting everybody, and these trees are something that will last for a very long time. So it's a really amazing investment of your time to come and do something like this that'll last for forever. It's very impactful.
Sports Night, brought to you with the compliments of Great Health Works, agents for Omega XL.
Sports time now with Damien Bess. What's new, Damien?
Well, good evening to you, Wendy. Good evening to our viewers and listeners. Well, the Barbados drag team finished second overall when the dust settled on the Island Rush Drags event in St. Vincent and the Grenadines recently. CBC's Amory Burke takes a look at some of the action.
We begin with the man who dried off the Bikers Championship, Barbados' very own Sheridan Mohammed, who had the 4 fastest times, ranging from 9.8 seconds to 9.6, going at 146 miles per hour on his Suzuki GSX-R 1000. Another Barbadian biker, Shane Alves, was the 3rd fastest with a 10.09 second clocking on the Saturday, while in Sunday's action, his fastest time was 10.46. Of notice that the other Barbadian biker, Fabian Reeves, did a 10.70 seconds clocking, going at 137 miles per hour. There was to be an all-Bajan showdown between Darrell Ennis, Nicholas Pinto, and Shaquille Jama in the final of the quarter mile for the 14-second bracket, but due to light and safety issues, it was unable to be completed. So when all was tabulated, Pinto, seen here on the left, was given the win for his overall performance over the 2 days. The other Barbadian to finish on the podium was Steve Bruce, who, although dealing with some traction issues, was second over the quarter mile for the cars in the 10-second category, behind Vincentian rival Ellsworth Decaun. The track proved difficult for the rear-wheel drivers, and Sammy Cumberbatch failed to get traction on the loose surface and did a time of 12.7 in the quarter mile, and just missed his place in the final of the 8th mile, being knocked out in the semis. Notably, Ronnie Harper was most consistent with his times of a 12.5 on both days over the quarter mile and an 8.1 in the 8th mile. Overall, it was a good showing by the Bajan team to finish in second place, and they're now looking forward to possibly making the trip to Grenada for the next event scheduled for June.
The Business Report, brought to you by the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, a department of the Ministry of Youth and Community Empowerment, supporting young entrepreneurs from idea to enterprise.
In tonight's business, the Men in Business magazine is one of the tools used by the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme to promote male entrepreneurs. 21 male entrepreneurs are featured in the publication, the first since 2015. Trevor Thorpe reports.
The proceedings started with Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Community Empowerment, Joy Adamson, presenting copies of the magazine to Kwame Dowrich and Stefan Marshall, who are featured in the publication. Editor and Youth Enterprise Officer Sherry-Ann Jordan says the magazine is an effort to reach men in communities. She says the initiative has created a buzz in the marketplace, adding that they've been able to secure the support from photographers as well as design and layout artists to make the magazine a reality. According to her, the publication shows young male entrepreneurs at various stages of their respective journeys.
We reached out to 6 entrepreneurs, and I have to say they readily said yes, and we were happy to actually start the process. So this actually started in January, and we were able to bring it to completion by the end of April. And it was an enjoyable experience working with the guys. This magazine actually had about 21 males, because we tried to work with males as well. And about 21 males actually contributed to the magazine, whether it was through contributors, the photography team, Blue Iron Media, all males, and even the design team, majority of them were males. So I think this is a good representation of men working together and men in business. And one of the purposes of this magazine too is we want them, other men, to see them and to see that they have stepped forward and let them come out as well and do it.
Kwame Dowrich of Math Plus Academy and a client of the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme is among those featured.
Very excited, not only for myself but for the team. The Math Plus Academy is a group of tutors at the end of the day, and it's going to help us a lot with getting the word out there. We're a little different than regular lessons per se. One, we're online, so we allow students to have the comfort of their own home while being educated. From the time I saw they were a magazine, I was like, Mom, my officer, I was like, I need to be on one of these. And after 4 years, it has come true.
Lensman Stefan Marshall of Stefan Terrell Photo says the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme is responsible for his development. He says photography is poetry.
The Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, I would have signed up maybe 2-3 years ago, and I would have done their business development course and all of that, and it was absolutely amazing, from just the simple classes online to actually getting to meet my classmates and stuff like that, and doing business labs, building out a business for business labs and stuff like that. It was absolutely amazing, and it taught me so much within a short period of time. And honestly speaking, I would recommend it to anyone who's looking to start their own business.
1,500 copies of the magazine have already been distributed, and it's also available online. Trevor Thorpe for the Yes Business Report.
Local entrepreneurs are being encouraged to dream big as they seek to grow their businesses and maximize their online presence. That is the advice digital coach Vincent Pimentia passed on to participants of a digital strategy workshop that also focuses on artificial intelligence. The 2-day event, being hosted by the Barbados Postal Service, kicked off today at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Center.
You have around you, very close to you, dream assassins, dream killers. It could be your partner, it could be your mom, it could be your sister, your brother, your friend, your neighbor. They are dream killers, assassins. And you have to understand and identify them. And sometimes you need to shut up and don't share. If your dream is too big, Don't share it with minute minds.
Welcome back, Damien. What do you have for us in this sports segment?
Yeah, thanks so much, Wendy. Some football news. Ellerton pulled off an upset as they beat title contenders UWI Blackbirds 4-1 in the latest fixture in the BFA Premier League at the Wildy Turf. Meanwhile, in the night's opening match, Wotton made light work of Barbados Soccer Academy. Sunday night at the Turf, Barbados Soccer Academy versus Wotton. Wotton already up 1-0 with a free kick now. Janico Baptiste with nifty footwork. That's his brace. 49 minutes gone. Wotton 2, Soccer Academy 0. 9 minutes later, Wotton camped out in their opponent's half. Player bills down the left. Cuts inside, shakes 2. Lays it off, and eventually to Shane Lord will bury a third. More problems for the Academy, who look destined for another defeat. Defense gives it away. Lord on a solo mission, cashes in. That's 4 to Wotton. 2 more goals were scored. The first via tennis star Darian King in the 80th. Top of the box, gets lucky with the return pass and slots it home. That's number 5. The demolition job was complete to Rez Williams. In time added on. Nothing too spectacular. 6-0 in the end. Victory to Wotton over Barbados Soccer Academy. Second match, Ellerton in yellow versus UWI Blackbirds. Pumped straight into the mixer. Danger not averted. Poor marking, and Anson Barrow should not and does not miss from there. That's 1-0 Ellerton. Just before halftime, Rashad Jules goes down in the box under challenge. Ellerton now with a chance to go 2-0 up from the penalty spot. Jaheim Headley versus Shaquan Phillips. Perfect from Headley. Ellerton on the move. Second half, switch of ends. Jules watching the flight of this one. Air dropped into the box and rifled home on 58 minutes. UWI stunned. The boys from KFL showed why they remain highly rated from this well-orchestrated corner kick. The flying header from Jerron Alderson. Picture perfect in the 69th. 3-1 now, work to do. Could this be the spark they needed? Well, Shaquan Cullimore went out that potential flame in the 72nd. The keeper a fraction slower off the line than the charging Cullimore. Signed, sealed, delivered. Ellerton take 3 points off UWI Blackbirds with a 4-1 victory.
Thanks for viewing. Do enjoy the rest of your evening.